Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director and Founder of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this introduction to the Research and Development Introductory Product Package that's been developed by ESS BIZTOOLS. We've developed the Research and Development Introductory Package to assist accountants and bookkeepers who are becoming involved in a wider range of advisory services for your clients, and congratulations on your step in going in that way. Part of our philosophy at ESS BIZTOOLS is that all accountants who are servicing the SME market should have available to them a range of resources to answer questions raised by SME clients. And one of the questions that I'm sure you'll be asked is, tell me about research and development. I've heard that one of my competitors has got a research and development grant. Now, that wouldn't be quite right, but anyhow, they may have called it a grant and they want to know about it. If you're going to be servicing the SME market in advisory services, financial, commercial, management, accounting issues, I think you need to have the information available that you can call it up on your screen and give your client the answer. Now, the material I'm going to show you now enables you to answer those questions. It doesn't mean that you're going to be formally acting for the client on undertaking research and development. That's the next step. Number one, in the first instance, the client has to think it through and decide whether they realistically are going to be undertaking a research and development project. But within our system, you will have access to material, papers, and flowcharts that you can make available to your client, so your client can make an informed decision. Do they qualify? Is it worth all the hassle? There's a number of questions to be answered. And at the same time, you need to make some decisions. Are you going to offer advice on research and development? I hope you answer yes, but that's up to you to decide. Because if you decide to answer yes, you'll need the full package. What we've got in the introductory is to enable you to answer those basic questions, not to handle the day-to-day activities. Let's hit on the head another misunderstanding, I think, by some accountants and possibly bookkeepers. I've had a couple of accountants over the years say to me, "Oh, Peter, we can't offer research and development. We're not engineers." And one said to me, he wasn't a scientist. I said, "Well, I know you're not a scientist, and I don't think you're an engineer. But why do you say that?" "Oh, well, all the experimentation that's got to be undertaken." I said, "That's not your role. And let's make it very clear now. It is not your role. Your role is to record and monitor what the client's written and decided. I think your role, if you want to compare it to someone that's offering services, is an internal auditor's type role. Within our ESS BIZTOOLS system, we have a wide range of forms. Some of them need to be filled in, not all of them. There's 46 separate forms. You won't have a client that needs all 46. But if you handled 10 to 15 research and development clients a year, you may need each of those 46 forms overall. But it'd be very doubtful. So let me take you through the overview of how the introductory package works, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what the research and development journey is all about. But please remember, there are thousands of SMEs who undertake research and development every year. Unfortunately, I find very few accountants who put up their hand and say, yes, we're offering advice on research and development. So who do those SME clients gravitate to? They gravitate to the big 4 firms, the top 100 firms, and the top 100 firms are great. We have some of them as our subscribers, primarily for the research and development product, I understand. It's a service that you can offer to your clients. You can grow with them. You can go on the journey because it opens up tremendous opportunities. Because along the way, most clients undertaking research and development start running out of money because they've plowed it all into their research project. They'll be looking to want to get funding. These days, it's a lot easier than when I was a younger accountant. but we have crowdsource funding, equity raising, and early stage innovation company. And we have a very well-informed venture capital market and a lot of angel investor groups around Australia. So there's plenty of people out there can invest, and they can invest through Section 708 of the Corporations Act. But to get those outside people to invest, your client's going to need a well-prepared business plan that really highlights the vision. They're going to have to document what their research and development projects are. They're going to need predictive accounting reports, budgets, cash flow forecasts, projected balance sheets for the future. They need a leadership team that's informed. They need to have a board of directors that's got an awareness of corporate governance issues and quite a few other things. So what I'm getting at is that the research and development projects can lead to very significant work activities for your accounting firm. And I can assure you these type of projects will help you overcome the problem that many accountants have got around Australia on talent attraction and retention, because you will be offering to your clients via your team interesting and challenging work. So please just bear with me a moment as I link to our computer and bring up from our system the research and development introduction. I'm just going to quickly go through this with you. What you can see is the summary of what the components are. There's a procedure control form. We have a procedure control form for all of our product packages within ESS BIZTOOLS. This just guides you through the process. So if we click onto that, and I need to so the procedure control form is now on your screen. And this just guides you through, gives you some overview of what research and development's all about. We talk about the hypothesis, and we talk about the templates for the plan. We talk about advanced findings. You can approach the tax office, and between the tax office and the Oz industry, they can give your client an approval for their project up for 3 years. But make sure that your client then sticks to whatever they applied for, because any deviation could be suspect. You need a research and development champion within your firm. There's no doubt about that. You need someone that really reads all this material and understands it. But firms have developed these people, and it's an interesting process. Normally, we have how you go about preparing a quotation, but we've prepared this particular package, Research and Development Introduction, as a means by where you can give an overall overview of what's involved in research and development. There's some marketing. If you click onto these marketing links, you've got access to some marketing information relative to the establishment of research and development. We're talking about prior art and literature. And so there's a fair bit of information contained in this area, which will assist you to understand that process with your clients. So that's why in quotation and proposal, I haven't got anything there, because we're seeing that you're going to be talking to your client. Is your client a company registered under the Companies Act? Well, if the answer is no, they're not eligible to claim research and development. So maybe that's the trigger that's now got to be pushed to get them into a corporate structure. We've analysed the benefits there. The turnover is under $20 million. They receive a tax credit of the tax rate, 25%, plus 18.5%, so 43.5% of their eligible expenditure. The big benefit for a company with a turnover under $20 million, it's in that category, is if the company is trading at a loss, they can apply for the calculated tax rebate, 43.5% of whatever they've spent. So if they've spent $100,000, $43,500 will be refunded within 30 days of the tax return being lodged, subject, of course, to the accumulated losses being more than $43,500. This can be a great benefit to clients who might be running out of money. And that's why you may have some people who are doing research and development who are on the phone looking for their tax returns shortly after the end of July, or maybe even before it, someone said to me recently. But because they're looking to have everything lodged with Oz Industry, because the major report's got to go to Oz Industry first, and then they issue a certification which you then incorporate within their tax return, which goes to the tax office, and the tax office send the payment direct to the company's nominated bank account. So that cycle can be very beneficial, and there's people out there who are very much aware of it because they're applying it to their processes each year. Then we talk about the companies with turnovers over $20 million, and that's when we come into this terminology, which is looking at the intensity of research and development. So if the intensity, that's research and development divided by total expenditure, is under 2%, the premium is 8.5% on the company tax rate for companies with turnovers over $20 million, which I don't do tax anymore, but I understand it's 30%. So that's 38.5%. If the intensity is over 2% of research and development as compared to total expenditure, the premium is 16.5%. So that with the 30% tax rate, we're now up to a rebate of 46.5%. But the big thing you need to remember is if the turnover is over $20 million, there is no refund from the tax office available, even if the company is trading at a loss, if their turnover is over $20 million. So there's more information there that you can see, which gives you the ability to answer questions. You'll notice there's a number of forms in here. We call them BAS. We had the terminology Business Advisory Services before the tax office invented that other thing called a BAS, and we've kept ours. There's various material there you can see, and if you subscribe to this package, you can go through that at your leisure. But the document I really want to show you is the flowchart. We have 15 flowcharts within ESS BIZTOOls. And the one that's on the screen now is number 1. It's called Flowchart 050. And this is our attempt to give you a tool that you can sit down and talk to your clients. You can have it on your screen with your client in front of you, or you can mail it to the client or do a webinar with them, just like I'm doing with you, and give them an understanding. We can link to papers, and you get access to all these papers as part of this promotion on the Research and Development Introduction Package. So what I'm saying is research and development starts with an idea. And so it might be an idea that a young apprentice has come up with. And in Smoko, he says to his foreman, well, why don't we do such and such? And the foreman says, geez, and goes to see the boss, oh, this young kid might have a good idea. So the boss might say, okay, you can form a small team. They can have 20 hours each. They put 3 into it. That's 60 hours we'll invest, and let's see what they come up with. So they'll do some preliminary investigations, and then it will be time to check whether the business is eligible. So first of all, as I said before, they've got to be a company, and they have to envisage that they're going to spend more than $20,000 in the financial year on research and development activities. So if they think this little project they're going to do is only going to cost $3,000 or $4,000, well, it's not worthwhile going down the path for research and development. But they may think of some others as well, of course. And we have a paper there that you can link to, so you'll get those details. Most people then appoint a project coordinator. This is getting a bit serious. And then some of the strange terminology comes into play. They need to undertake a prior art or literature search. We have details of that in that form, 5505. This is really looking at to whether somewhere in the world has already registered a patent on this type of idea. Your client's probably not going to be able to find that out themselves. They can do searches on the internet, but they probably need to commission a patent attorney. So they need to be aware now that the costs are going to start adding up. Documentation of prior literature identified. It's very important that if they're downloading information off the internet, that they date it so that they can clearly prove that at the date they undertook all this, that there was no registered patents that they could find anywhere in the world. They've got to identify core activities that they propose to undertake from this research and development, so they need to nominate them. And these papers that I'm showing to you two have got a lot more information in. We're just summarising it in the flowchart. And there must be at least a prime project, a core project in each activity. And what's the new knowledge intended to be produced? Now, new knowledge is knowledge that's not currently available. And we need to nominate that. And then we get to the hypothesis. The hypothesis is a statement that there's going to be an attempt to prove or disprove a particular statement. So they identify the statements, and we need them documented, because they have to be submitted to Oz Industry when the return is lodged. And that return has to be lodged within 10 months of the end of the financial year. So that's normally the 30th of April for a 30th of June financial year. So it's the next 30th of April. But a big warning, try to do all this work earlier, because there's a big rush around the end of April, and it can take months to get the Oz Industry clearance and the document they have to send back to you, which then has to be included in that company's tax return before it can be lodged. So it's far better to have all this done in October, November every year, and the whole process will be sorted out, because the deal flow then going to Oz Industry is very small, but it really peaks as we get closer to the 30th of April. We need to nominate who they've approached, and we mentioned in our paperwork as you go through it, they need to be aware of confidentiality, and perhaps talking to their solicitor about having confidentiality agreements prepared. Do they get advice from anyone else? What material they identified? They need to review everything they've put into this at this stage. Could the outcome be determined in advance? They got evidence of their purpose. There's a checklist. And I suggest they prepare a research and development plan. Now, that's not a legal requirement for a company with a turnover under $20 million, but it's very good practice, very good corporate governance to prepare the research and development plan. And so that identifies everyone that's involved, and also helps facilitate the preparation of the budget, which again is not required under the legislation, but it's a good idea. So the decision maker's got some idea what all this might be going to cost. One of the things that the decision maker should be looking at is to see whether the total expenditure, and that includes the team members for the time they work on the project. So their time records have to be kept, and they can be costed at their rate of pay plus their on-cost rates, to cover holiday pay, sick pay, superannuation, and all the other things. So the research and development budget, the approver needs to be making inquiries. If the budget says it's going to cost $12,000, well, are we undertaking another project? Because if we're not going to be able to claim the taxation benefit. Still might be worthwhile doing, of course, but let's not have management or the owner believing he's going to get the tax rebate if you're not, and the cost estimate's only $12,000, they won't be getting it. And then it should be submitted to the board of directors, because this whole process is really based on what the public servants believe was the process in universities and in big businesses years ago when research and development was introduced as a taxation benefit. And there's an expectation that these sorts of processes will be followed also by SMEs. So we have a reference in our paper on the role of the board of directors, and it doesn't matter if it's only a one director company. That person is probably used by this to having meetings on their own, because that's the reality. But that board process should approve, and we have in all these forms that we're referring to, you've got the forms that enable you to sign off, the directors sign off on approval to undertake this project. Now, that's the information we have available. The next flow chart you can go to is FC051, but that's the next step. What we've got there is, I think, enough information. Someone's recently started using it and said, well, there's plenty of information, and it's to enable you to be able to answer basic questions from your clients. So what we've got there, together with the access to the forms themselves that you've got, because they come out of the procedure control form, hopefully you've got everything you need to be able to answer the questions and find out whether the client's interested. If the client comes back to you and says, yes, I am, I think my expenditure is going to be $150,000, and this is what we're going to do, and we've done some preliminary research, you've then got a decision to make. Are you going to be their skilled advisor right through this process, not to undertake the research activities? That's the client's worry. And if they don't know how to do it, they've got to go and recruit. There are people in various consultancies and universities that they can hire. They'll have to pay them. That's part of the cost. But you need to decide whether you're going to be that internal auditor role, for want of a title, to make sure all the documentation is prepared. And it needs to be prepared daily, weekly, monthly, because there'll be people working on a project every day, and that needs to be documented. So that's the research and development introduction. I hope that's of interest to you. I hope it is, because I think if accountants are really going to embrace this service to SMEs, as we look at the changing circumstances, not only for SMEs, but also for accountants and bookkeepers. And the former tax commissioner has given ample warning of what's happening. And if you've been reading any of our material recently, you would have seen what Mark Withersham had to say, a former Sydney accountant, a sole practitioner, employed a few people, saw the light, he said in his presentation that I watched about 6 weeks ago now in 1999, went overseas, become very enthusiastic about value pricing concepts, and he's developed a business in London that's consulting to accountants all around the world on value pricing. And he's also become a senior consultant to ChatGPT because of AI. And incidentally, one of the real comments he made in his very interesting webinar presentation on AI, that's what I was watching, was that compliance work as we now know it will have disappeared by the end of this decade, or possibly earlier. He said that as an aside comment at the end, or possibly earlier. Now, what happens to your firm if all of the compliance work, as we currently have, is not there by 2030, before even the Brisbane Olympic Games? You need to think about it. You combine that with what the former tax commissioner, Chris Jordan, a former partner of KPMG, had to say at Xerocon 2022, 2.5 years ago, that within 3 to 5 years, there'd be significant changes, and what accountants needed to do was to become the brilliant and trusted advisors. This is part of the brilliant and trusted advisors path, to be able to confidently offer research and development advice to SMEs. If you want to know more information, please contact me. Send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, or give me a phone call, 0418 190 181. And I look forward to hearing from you. And obviously, for more information on all of our products, please go to our website, www.essbiztools.com.au. Have a great day. Goodbye. I look forward to hearing from you and hopefully hearing great results from what your SME client's reaction is to you being able to communicate to them about research and development. And next week, we're going to talk about another product that is also very important for SMEs, that accountants need to be geared up to provide that service if you are going to operate a financial, commercial, management accounting advisory service to help your SME clients survive and thrive. Goodbye.